Are you? Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, there we go. So here we are on the first Friday hot topic of the 2024 year. And we have two great guests. This is so interesting. And I'm so looking forward to our information sharing today. So first of all, you're here because you wanted to hear about John Geider's journey down the Duck River. John is an acclaimed photographer and environmental advocate. He's been involved with this advocacy for a number of years. He, in October, embarked on a canoe journey for the full 265-mile length of Tennessee's Duck River. And it's one of the most biodiverse rivers in the world. Okay, so his journey aimed to raise awareness about the Duck River's environmental crisis, worsened by current drought conditions, and he wanted to also document the unparalleled beauty through his award-winning photography. And we also have the great benefit of being joined by Jess Martin. And she has a background in psychology and biology, and a keen love for science. She's completed her master's in integrated communications to combine science and communication. So she works in Egypt until about 2015 with an organization called Breaking Borders, and Tazwila, which is Arabic for connection. These organizations provide clean water and well access, education about clean water, all of the things for villages along the Nile River. And she spent most of her career working in the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa. So how she ended up in Tennessee, maybe she'll let us know, but here we are. We have her with us today. She moved to Nashville to be closer to family and came on board with the Harpeth Conservancy to manage their communications. So over this last year, she's genuinely loved getting to know the Tennessee rivers and nature she now calls home. So we will hear from them about everything Duck River related and potential options for further advocacy for our membership. But first, I am going to show you a video that is the teaser for a proposed PBS special. So hopefully that will air sometime soon, and we'll all be able to view it. But we'll watch the magic of sharing the screen here. And we tested it once and it worked. We'll try it again and see what happens. So here we go, folks. Share the audio. Can't do this. And I think it's working. Yes? Play.
I probably have paddled or sailed maybe 14,000 miles so far. The duck has always been a dream of mine.
This year, the Duck River was listed on American River's Most Endangered Rivers list.
The river can't support all this development. It's something that as Tennesseans need to be concerned about. At 75 years of age, that's going to be a challenge. When I land after 7 or 8 hours of paddling, I'm pretty well exhausted. I was grateful to have the help portaging the dam. I never would have made it myself. You can see how.
Well, everybody in our community appreciates what you're doing to raise awareness, because you don't really see it on paper, but if you see somebody in the water.
The pressure of the water flipped me and threw me out of the boat along with all my belongings. My wallet's gone, phone is gone, I have nothing. To be frank, I couldn't have made the journey without help. It's more than a personal river journey.
All right, have a safe travels, dude.
Y'all take care. Thank you.
Wow. So I'm back on screen, I think. And the fish at the end was the big surprise. But also some of the dangerous times that John faced. I wasn't aware of the capsizing. And so thankfully, John is here with us. And John, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about your inspiration and some of your findings, and we talked about folks before this meeting. John and I talked a couple times on the phone, and really this is kind of like a fireside chat for us for John to share some of his observations. I'm really looking forward to seeing that documentary now. What a great piece of video work that documented your journey. So, John, if you can, let's see, come on camera and come off mute. And I'm not sure how we get to spotlight him. Karen, maybe you can help me with.
He could, you can give him the host and he could host it.
Okay.
And also he needs to unmute himself. He still has not unmuted himself. He's quite capable of speaking and even exclaiming when fish jump at him.
So let's see.
You can undo that. I can't, I don't have,
Okay.
you can unmute him
Is
if you
Laura
want.
still with us? Let's see.
She's under legal women voters. I don't know.
Um,
There he is.
Okay, there he is. All right.
And he's unmuted too. Look at
Welcome, John, the movie star now.
There we go. There we go.
that. Wonderful. Thank you.
You can see how technically competent I am.
Well, we're all in this boat together, to use a metaphor of the day.
Well, yeah, I'd like to start maybe talking about my motives for what I've been doing. And Jess is so well educated, so well informed about the environmental aspects of the duck that I'm going to leave a lot of that to her. And she can actually tell you the factual truth. Anyway, these journeys began back in 2003 when I was about 54. And there were two motivations. One was I was a very well-known advertising photographer, very successful. But digital came and challenged my world. And one of the things I had to decide is, do I, pay the six-figure fee to change everything to digital? and just do everything that I've been doing, the same thing again and again, or do I try something different? When I was born not very healthy. I had serious asthma all my life. I spent a year in the hospital when I was in 4th grade due to it. And in my 40s, I was getting pneumonia so frequently that I finally asked my allergist what my life expectancy was. And he said, generally people with as challenged an immune system as I rarely live past 55. So in 2003, I was 54. I decided that I didn't want to do what I've been doing. And so I wanted a new project. And I've always loved the water, and I wanted to photograph. I thought of hiking the Appalachian Trail, but with 30 pounds of equipment, I didn't think that was possible. So I decided to do a canoe journey. At that time, I had a little farm in Franklin, so I put the canoe in on Spencer Creek and paddled it 2,500 miles to New Orleans, even though I'd rarely paddled or camped before. And to say the least, it was a life-changing experience, and one I would gladly influence you all to consider. Maybe not as extreme as me, but to get out in nature is just a life-changing experience. A lot of things happened. One, I came back so healthy that I couldn't believe myself. I'd lost 40 pounds. I had energy, I had health, and I had spirit. Being in nature is just an incredible experience. It's the world that God made, and it's tranquil, it's recharging, and I just couldn't get enough of it. The Harpeth River, which I'm sure many of you know, or all of you, was very special to me. I spent 2 weeks on the Harpeth trying to access the Cumberland River, and the land banks are so high, or high enough, that really you can't see much beyond it. You're in this just wonderful path where the trees are overhanging the river, and you're confined. The other thing is that the river, or the canoe, gently travels down the river in such a stealth mode that the critters on the banks rarely notice you. So you can see their actions and their interactions with other animals, and how they treat each other with dignity and respect. And it was just a wonderful, informative view of a world that most people don't really get to see anymore. The other thing was I'd get to some place like up in Murfreesboro, not Murfreesboro, but up in Clarksville, where the river goes through, and other little towns. I would kind of treat myself to a hotel night, and a shower and a bath, and a nice hot dinner. But what I found was that by the time I got down into Mississippi, I was so comfortable with my process and comfortable with the boat and my living routine that I no longer wanted to take a hotel. I just wanted to go back to my tent. And it was life-changing. It just made me realize how adaptable human beings are. And it took away a lot of my stress of wondering what old age was going to be like, or what was going to be like if I didn't have an income. I had 20 acres of farmland and I really loved it, but on the Mississippi, I would land on a perfectly pristine white sand beach, look around, and I'd have 10, 20,000 acres all to myself. And they were all mine as long as I wanted to stay there. So it was a wonderful, life-changing experience. After that, I did the Great Loop, which was a 6,500-mile water course. I wanted to challenge myself to do things that I hadn't done before, so I built my own boat. It was a little rowboat with a sail, and I'd go out for every summer for a couple of months, make 1,000 miles, and then wherever I stopped, I'd start again the next year. So it was a 6-year course. And I got to meet incredible people. I was out of sort of my own niche. And one of the things that really surprised me and overwhelmed me was the fact that strangers would bring me into their houses and feed me and take care of me. And even when it was time to leave, it was me who had to be the one to say, no, I got to go. And they would have, I couldn't believe the generosity. And I was overwhelmed with it. And the humanity of people that are out there is just so special. And even in my little boat, I'd go in a marina and meet people and 70, 80, 100-foot yachts, and they would invite me on board and take me out to dinner. And it was just incredible. After that, I was walking through downtown Nashville, and I came across a historical signage that talked about John Donaldson's landing here and helping to form the city of Nashville. And within the story, he came down on his flat-bottom boat named the Adventure. So I decided I couldn't think of a name for my boat, so I decided to call it the Adventure 2. And then I just couldn't get it out of my head what Donaldson had done in a flat bottom boat for 1,000 miles from up in East Tennessee. And I wanted to redo that adventure, and not as a reenactment, but as an observation of what has changed and what is out there. And I got to understand the difference between rural attitudes and urban attitudes. And when I did the journey, I came down the Holston, the entirety of the Tennessee, up the Ohio and the Cumberland. It was September and October of 2016, right before the election. And through the entire journey, all I saw were Donald Trump signs. I saw nothing about Hillary. The only other things I saw, which was a little concerning, were nooses hanging from the tree. On the Duck River, there were no nooses, but I came across areas where there was big signs that said no woke zone. And so the attitudes of the rural communities are much different than what I found in such a liberal town as Nashville. But in searching, kind of doing some research, I realized that a lot of the attitudes are just a lack of availability, a lack of accessibility. The healthcare facilities are not great. The employment opportunities are not great. And the education facilities, the hospitalizations, you really have to travel long and far to get a proper hospital care. And I also realized or found that the meth epidemic was real, and I met a lot of people who were hooked on meth, but they were good people. They just had some serious injuries, and the pain was so excruciating, and the only way they could get over it was to get on meth, and it was sad. So it was such a wonderful adventure, such a wonderful experience that I just kept wanting to continue. So I had wanted to do the duck for a number of years. I had a good friend, Mark Fly, who was a professor at UT, and he had family property on the duck, and we were going to paddle it together, but unfortunately he passed away a few years back, and it just sort of put a stop on my dream. But with the Harpeth Conservancy and Jess and their advocation for the duck and its rehabilitation, it motivated me to want to get back on the river. And so I did that with the idea that basically my journey was a thread, and it was an opportunity to introduce discussions about the impairment of the duck and its need for rehabilitation. So I kind of partnered with Harpeth. I did the solo journey, but they were there to look out after me. And even when I had my accident, Jess came down and collected me and then had me back in Nashville in just a few hours. And I was able to recollect myself and start again. So I found out a lot about the duck. It's a beautiful river. You saw the documentary and the overhead shots. The nice thing about being on a river like that is that the banks obscure pretty much anything to the left or the right. And so even a housing development could be going on 100 yards away and you wouldn't see it. You still feel the sense that you're out in the wilderness. The duck is unusual. We were in drought. I had wanted to start up at the old stone fort where the little duck and the big duck come together, but the drought was so bad the water level was down to under 6 inches, and I finally ended up halfway between Old Stone Fort and the lake, Lake Normandy, on Powers Bridge Road, and that's where we began. And it officially is 265 miles from the Tennessee River. And so the next 28 days were pretty much concerned with the river, and it was a wonderful experience. I met some great people here again. We had maybe 3 days of frost, and people came down and offered to put me up in their cabins, and it was really a wonderful gesture, and very invigorating, very motivating for me to go forward. The duck is unique in that it's the longest river that's self-contained within the state of Tennessee. And within the state of Tennessee, what I've found is that there are more water features per acre than any other state in the Union. And that makes, for me, Tennessee, kind of America's Eden, and it needs to be protected. It needs to be preserved. We have the river goes through a lot of communities: Shelbyville, Columbia, Centerville, and there's a lot of development going on. Tennessee is one of the most popular states to relocate in now. And it has a lot to do with the beauty of the landscape. And of course, everybody knows Nashville's not affordable, but if you go a little further down the road to Shelbyville, you can get a house for 200,000 or 300,000, where it's not possible here. And so the developers are really clamoring to produce homes down there, and they're putting an incredible strain on the river. Jess will get into those details, and I'll let her do that. But my time on the river is just spiritual. Every time I go out, I come back stronger and healthier. I found that hard work is good for me, and I try to maintain that when I get home. Right now I'm 75, and I'm basically the healthiest I've ever been in my life. I'm on no medications. I don't even take Tylenol or any kind of sleep aid. I'm just happy and healthy and ready to go forward. So I'm going to let, I don't know if you want to ask me questions, or we should let Jess talk about the river itself and its importance, and then we can have some questions, however you want to do it.
Okay, well, let's give Jess her opportunity to talk about some of the legislative actions around this, and then hopefully we'll have time to chat again at the end and ask questions. So everybody on the call, be writing them down or put them in the chat, then we can get back to it, and we'll have Jess have the opportunity to answer questions too. I am, so in these times of troubles, I'm so invigorated, encouraged. Your journey down the Duck River, as you said, was a very spiritual journey in a sense, and the health benefits for you, that peace of mind. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I am now going to attempt to make Jess a host, presenter, something. Let's see. Spotlight for everyone. Not sure how I do this. There. Okay. I did it. And Jess, do you want me to share the PowerPoint now? Okay. Lots going on. Here we go again, folks. I am going to now share Jess's PowerPoint for us. But I did want you to make a personal connection with seeing her first. So here we go with the PowerPoint. Share. And we'll put in fit to screen slideshow. Yes. Bigger. Okay. Is that working, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I did a little visual kind of quick put together. This obviously is not going to contain all of the information we could talk about. There is so much that I think we could touch on. But I do want to kind of introduce you all to the river a little bit more intimately, give you some background on the river, and tell you kind of some things that have been going on. I will obviously try to answer as many questions as I can afterwards. So as John kind of talked about, the Duck River is the longest river entirely contained within Tennessee's borders. It is officially 284 miles long, and it is known as the Duck River and the rivers of the Southeast are the third most biologically diverse river system in the world. The first is the Amazon River system and the Amazon River. The second is the Mekong in Southeast Asia. And then the third, we have the rivers of the Southeast, which are part of our river systems, but the Duck River is the most biologically diverse river in our country. One of the things that we love to share that a lot of people don't actually know is that approximately 90% of Tennesseans, that's all across the state, live within 1 mile of a river, stream, or waterway. So all of us have an intimate connection to water, whether we realize it or not, whether our backyard has a river in it or not, there is one within a mile of us. And the Duck River happens to be part of a large part of many people's lives because it actually spans across several different counties, more than seven. It drains through seven more counties. It starts in Coffee County, then you have Humphreys, Hickman, Dixon, Lewis, Maury, Marshall, Bedford, and then it finally ends in the Tennessee River and the Kentucky Lake. Along the river, you're going to see deep pools, small rapids, caves, cliffs, even some little waterfalls and some things that are just beautiful, and the landscape is absolutely just unique. No matter where you are on the river, it's going to be slightly different. It flows through farmland, developed land, and even two state parks. So this is something that is a treasure for us here in Tennessee. If you look at the map here on the top where there's some little cities. I don't know how clear it is, but along this map we have Normandy where there is a large dam. We have a dam at Shelbyville. Between Shelbyville and Columbia, we have the Milltown Dam. We have a dam at Columbia. So there are approximately 5 dams on this river, and those are each doing something different for those different segments. And we will talk a little bit about the Normandy Dam when we talk about the executive order. But the different segments of the river are going to, all play a part in the whole biodiversity. We can go to the next slide, I think is where I start that. Let's see. So, as I was saying, it's the most biologically diverse freshwater river in North America. It is home to 151 fish species and over 50 mussel species, some of which are only found in this river. There are two particular mussel species, the birdwing pearly mussel and the Cumberland monkey-faced pearly mussel, that are on the endangered species list. They are protected by the Endangered Species Act. And also, I believe the slab-side pearly mussel may be on that, but I didn't have time to confirm that. I do know about these two. But the Duck River is one of the few rivers in Tennessee where there is a thriving freshwater mussel population. And you might be thinking, Jess, why are you going on and on about mussels? Well, mussels are one of my favorite things to talk about. But since the 1920s, the Duck River has seen a 24% reduction in the species richness. And mussels are really important to the overall ecosystem because they filter bacteria, algae, and pollution and other things from the water. And they also help stabilize these stream channels. And not only that, but they are a source of food for small animals like otters and raccoons, and even some birds. And if we did not have mussels in the rivers as we know it, we would see a huge change in the water quality overall. But other sources of pollution and different things, in and as well the drought and the consistent decline of how much water is available, we have seen a decline in the amount of the mussel populations. So this is something that we are really concerned about. As well, the Duck River supports 250,000 people with drinking water in Tennessee. More than 65% of Tennesseans rely on rivers and streams for their drinking water. In West Tennessee, that they rely more on the aquifers, but here in Middle Tennessee, it is rivers and streams, and the Duck River supports a large number of that. The Duck River is also a huge draw for fishing, kayaking, and recreation. And within the watershed, over 150,000 annual visitors, they come in for this. I was at the symposium earlier this week, and we were talking about outdoor recreation in Tennessee as a whole. It's a $13 billion a year industry that provides over 100,000 jobs, and it makes up 3% of our employers here in Tennessee. So without this river, that job market and that industry is going to definitely take a hit. We can continue forward. So earlier this year, Harpeth Conservancy, along with the Southern Environmental Law Center and the Tennessee Wildlife Federation, we worked together as a coalition to provide the scientific layout and the nomination to American Rivers. American Rivers is a nonprofit organization, and essentially what they do is they are a public interest organization that helps protect and restore rivers throughout the U.S. And each year they release a list of the most endangered rivers. Now, this is different from a state designation of a state scenic river or a protected water. This is more of a they're highlighting these rivers for amplifying the voices of local partners and spotlighting decisions that could determine the fate of these rivers. So they picked 10 rivers, and in 2015, Harpeth Conservancy did the same process to nominate the Harpeth River. And so we kind of used that roadmap from the work that we had done before to work on getting the Duck River nominated this year. And so the Duck River was named to this list, and it was actually named number 3 on the list out of 10. And so sorry, I have been losing my voice a little bit this week. So I'm trying to not hear myself too much, but one of the things that we were able to point out is that Tennessee is one of the fastest growing states in the nation. And this explosive growth in Middle Tennessee is having a major impact on our waterways, including and especially the Duck River. That population and industry growth has really just led to extreme development pressures, and the local water utilities are trying to dramatically increase the amount of water that they are withdrawing from the duck. So what we're seeing is just this unsustainable consumption of water from the duck, and as they have this plan of just exponential growth with unsustainable water withdrawals, we entered into a period of drought earlier in April and May. And as we got later in the year, the peak of the drought, it actually started meeting numbers that we had seen during the historic drought of 2007. And in 2007, that drought was really something that they like to call once in a 1,000-year kind of drought. But we were seeing those same numbers starting to meet up. And so those two things, the overconsumption and the drought, was putting the long-term water, it is putting the long-term water supply for local communities and just the river's ecosystem and the aquatic inhabitants at risk. So part of what we wanted for getting the Duck River listed on this on the most endangered rivers was to see three things kind of come out of it. We wanted to see the governor to take action at this critical juncture. We wanted him to convene a technical working group that would provide expertise and recommendations regarding the water management and conservation in the river, and also to direct TDEP to develop a comprehensive plan to proactively manage the long-term and sustainable use of the water. And then also to fund the much needed scientific studies that we have been starting to look at on a lower level within our organization, but we want to see those happen on a broader scale to understand the flow needs of the river. If the water levels in the Duck River get too low due to short-sighted management, then it's going to hurt local economies. It's going to impede their recreation use, and it's eventually going to just kill out species. And one of the things that I had said we saw this year was the impact on the mussels. There were, as John had said, you know, he couldn't start his journey because there were only 6 inches of water at the very start, the Old Stone Fort. Well, there are different places along the river where, you know, mussel beds were becoming stranded, and we saw some die-outs of mussels. So I think we can go to the next slide. So throughout the year, we had been asking people to sign this petition. We had been rallying and doing some community support. And thankfully, you know, in November, we just saw Governor Lee sign this Executive Order 108, which aims to balance economic growth with environmental conservation. We can go to the next one. So there is essentially some big takeaways, but to put it plainly, this executive order is directing statewide watershed management for the Duck River, preservation and water supply planning. But it's also setting a precedence so that, you know, other rivers in our state can follow this same kind of process. But some of the ones that we're really excited about, there's comprehensive permitting, capping of water loss, prioritizing regionalization, which meaning that people have to talk to each other. Utility companies have to talk to each other, or water systems rather. Habitat conservation plan, drought management plan, public education, recreational access, and then also looking at how they're improving the management of the Normandy Reservoir and how that is going to improve based on the overall river, both downstream and upstream. And then the next. So what is next? So right now, we are in the talks of stakeholder collaboration. So there are going to be key organizations and parties that will be coming together as part of the kind of the round table, if you will, to help start leading the way into this. As this executive order is being rolled out. So those collaborative efforts will definitely be able to extend our reach and foster knowledge exchange. And from organizations like at Harpeth's level, we can, you know, have the above, and we can also be able to connect with local community or community groups. Then after that, the plans will be put into motion. Obvious next steps will be to begin, you know, the implementation of things that have been decided upon. For example, there one of the things that can begin fairly quickly, there is funding already for that is immediately available for a blueway project on the Duck River. And so, because that is already immediately available, it might be that they need to specify the exact site or whatever. I don't have the exact details on that, but I do know that one of those projects is available for immediate funding. And then something else that, would come is the Duck River Watershed Society grant that I'm sure you all heard they received the 20 million for from the USDA. And a lot of that is going to be going into restoration projects. And they're going to begin the process of, deciding how to pick where and how and all of that. And that's um, something that, as they begin to implement that, there will be segments or parts of the river that we'll see being restored. And then also the community engagement initiatives. Those may begin as soon as this actual Zoom call. This is a community engagement initiative because we want to increase awareness and involvement in protection efforts. And so, the next steps for you all may be, attending, our legislative 101 session. We have a webinar coming up for that. And then participating in our Constitution, or not Constitution, oh my gosh, Conservation Day on the Hill, which is when we will be going in February to the Capitol and speaking with legislators about various bills and initiatives that are coming up. And one of those is wetlands, which, as we learn more about the Duck River watershed, we're seeing, that some of the overlap where isolated wetlands are being mapped around the Duck River, part of protecting wetlands and part of protecting the Duck River is married together. So I would encourage you all to definitely get involved with us through those, get registered for those events that we have coming up, and take advantage of those educational opportunities. I apologize that was the speedy Zoom through. I was trying to keep it to 10 minutes or so. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions that I can. And if there's something particular that I missed, I will definitely try to go back.
Okay, well, let me see if there's any questions in the chat here. Oh, we've got lots. Okay, so a couple things, couple questions in the chat. And John, if you'll be prepared too, let's see who can answer this. Do you have any new information about the development on the Monsanto site in Maury County?
Do you, Jess?
I do not have any information on the development of the Monsanto site, no, but I do know that at Harpeth Conservancy, we are actually looking, we are speaking with the group that is local to that area that has been kind of working with that. And we have been tracking that, and we will continue to be. And we may be partnering or becoming a fiscal sponsor to that group. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to proceed forward with that, but I can find out more information and definitely send you all an update on that.
Great, great. Another question. Go ahead, John.
Well, one other thing is that people should know is that the Duck is basically a limestone-based river. It goes whenever the river gets low and I'm paddling and I hit the bottom, I hit rock. And because of that, all of the riverbanks are full of little rock pellets, and they have become very popular. And a lot of companies are trying to mine the rocks along the river as you know, use in beds and stuff like that. So that has become a problem as well.
Yeah. Interesting kind of consequence of that natural formation, making it a commodity. Our next question is, I'm prioritizing this one. Is the executive order funded? Is that going to be an issue for implementation?
I will have to check on that. I believe that all of that funding is coming from above us. I don't believe that we have to fund anything. Is that what you're asking?
No. Who had that? Karen, can you elaborate on that question? Or
Well, I believe that Cynthia asked it. And so the question really is, once you put in a mandate, for example, a watershed plan and all these other kinds of things, those things have to be funded. And the way that they're funded usually is through TDEC. And that would mean that to actually find out whether this executive order is going to have any oomph behind it, i.e. Budgetary line items, we should probably track TDEC's budget in the coming legislative session. And as I pointed out to somebody also on this, the Tennessee League of Women Voters does have a group concerned about conservation and environment issues who also advocate through the League of Women Voters. We track a number of the things, including that which you do with on the Thursday calls that Harpeth was dealing with in the wetlands, et cetera. So we will probably continue to track that. But that is Cynthia's question was an excellent question. And it's one thing to have words, and it's another whole thing to have budget.
100%. Yes.
yeah.
Definitely. I do not personally know if it is funded or not, but I will be definitely happy to ask if any of our staff knows that answer. And then yes, you are 100% accurate when you say it is one thing to have words and it is one thing to have budget here. Let's do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that came up is the wetlands that are off the river are very important to the environment of the river. And yet the legislation that is being proposed does not cover the wetlands. And so it allows the wetlands to be vulnerable for development and put the river in jeopardy, even though there's legislation proposed to protect the river. So something has to be addressed about that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a very serious question.
Right. Right. Well, I think we have time for one or two more. So we had another question. What is the purpose or the use of the 5 dams on the river? Are they being considered for removal?
As of right now, I don't believe any of the dams are being considered for removal. Normandy Dam was originally built for flood control and like economic development purposes. I know it does not produce any electricity right now. I'm not sure what their proposals may be in terms of improvements or um, any future uses of the dam. I know that they have looked at the flow rates going out of Normandy Dam and how they could raise the dam level potentially to help sort of offset during like drought season the flow below the dam. But from all I know right now, that none of the dams are any form of like hydroelectric or anything like that.
Yeah. Two of the dams are old mill dams that could be removed, but for some reason nobody's making any motion to remove them. The other 2 dams are Centerville and Shelbyville, or Columbia and Shelbyville. And they're used for water withdrawal and have been in place for many, many years. The Normandy Dam is kind of strange because TVA built it, and I think they just wanted government money to do it. It does not generate electricity. And one issue that bothers me that never comes to debate is that the river is 158 square miles, or not the river, but the dam of still water. And nobody has discussed about the evaporation rate of the water during the summer. And it seems very obvious to me that more water has to come into the dam than goes out of it because of the evaporation.
Yeah.
And now there are people who are wanting to raise the lake as much as 30 feet, which is insane. And I don't know what that would cover and what that would do, but obviously there would be more water flow, but it just seems to be not a good environmental thing to do. And I think possibly the downstream communities would get more water without the dam than with it. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. And one of the dams that Lillard's Mill, just below that, there is a very rich mussel bed. And so part of having the dam there does allow, I think, for the mussels to really have that space. But removing it would obviously potentially be a great thing for the free flowing of the river.
And then the other thing I've noticed is that behind the dam is where all the pollution gathers. And if you go down river, you see the algae and the water plants, and they're the ones that it's that's depriving the oxygen for the fish in the water. So and then some of the, I mean, I fell in the water by the Lillard Dam, and it was probably the most disgusting thing I've ever been in a long, long time.
Yeah. Karen, you're on mute.
Just blabbing.
No, we're just blabbing.
Okay.
My husband came in and,
Well, I'm
he's-
very, very interested in access to stretches of the river that would be usable for sort of wild swimming. And when you described John falling into disgusting water, I was like, oh my God, not good.
Yeah, it's a beautiful river, and it is worth exploring. There are a lot of put-in sites. I think there are 2 canoe rental companies that are doing very well. And yeah, I would recommend it. But except for the one dam, the other 4 are not portageable. I needed help, and I couldn't have done it without it.
Yeah. So we have one final question, if we can get to it. How much of the Duck River, as far as you know, is accessible to the public outside of Normandy Lake? Is it really kind of too isolated for?
Sorry.
So once you get past certain points, I mean, there's parks in Columbia, there's a park in Centerville, there's in Shelbyville, and there's a river access at Lillard Dam. But unfortunately, along many of the stretches of the river, there is zero public access. And that will be a great challenge to the Blue Ways project, because even with funding, a lot of those Blue Ways will have to be on private property, and so they'll have to work with property owners to construct and put those access points in. And that could be a challenge, but you could have people who are very willing to do that. But once you get below Centerville, I think there's only 1 or 2 boat put-ins, and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think adds to the, we started this conversation with John's musings on, really being kind of alone in the waterway, not being able to see above the trees or the shoreline, and that lack of visibility being, in my mind, a a positive, a kind of a nice separation of getting away from it all, but it also creates a visual blind spot for the general public to, out of sight, out of mind, that our
Well,
rivers.
yeah, we become a community that see rivers as an obstacle, something we have to cross over. And what really surprised me was when I was telling people I was going to paddle to New Orleans, I was surprised how few people knew that one could actually get on the Cumberland and reach the Mississippi. They had no idea that the river is connected that way. And so more needs to be told of the story of the rivers and its importance to our health and to our community and our well-being. We're moving away, and it's not right. It's not right at all.
Well, we are at time. I would love to, just spend the rest of the afternoon talking with about this. It's been very uplifting to, I can't wait to see the documentary, as I've already said. And
Yeah, I want to see it.
for those of you on the call, of course, we'll have links to the Conservation Day on the Hill is in February. We'll have a link to the class, the 101 program that Jess mentioned, and we'll keep you posted on when we see that documentary listed. We want to thank you so much for wrapping up our year here with something uplifting about the state of Tennessee and conserving the Duck River for plants, animals, people to enjoy in the future. So thank you both. And we'll see you all again in February. We are not going to do a January hot topic because it's only 2 days after the new year, and maybe you'll still all be sleeping and hibernating. So we'll see everyone in
What a
February.
great decision, Melissa.